Welcome to another exciting edition of Film Bouillabaisse. We are shooting from Marietta, Georgia, where we got to see a film together.
We did get to see a film together. What film did we see, Allison?
Well, this is my co-host as always, Logan Albright, and
Howdy.
we saw Last Night in Soho.
The new Edgar Wright film.
I loved it. It's a genre bender.
Edgar Wright, as you may know, is the director who made his name with Shaun of the Dead and the World's End and the Cornetto trilogy, Hot Fuzz, the Cornetto trilogy, and this is his first foray into like serious horror that doesn't have a lot of comedy in it.
It did have a little, and it's a family drama, and it's a psychological thriller, and there is
It's not a family
horror,
drama. That's misleading.
horror peppered out throughout the entire film.
Yeah, I'd say it's a serious horror film.
So we have Thomasin McKenzie playing the lead role, and then we have Anya Taylor-Joy playing kind of a counterpart for her as we flash back and forth through roughly present day to the mid to late 1960s.
The atmosphere, the zeitgeist of 1960s London is captured so well in this film, I think. It really kind of transports you there. And I love the big 60s set pieces with the music, and I just think it's a very stylish film in that regard.
The costuming, the factory girl kind of Andy Warhol, the white mod,
Yeah,
trench
mod is a
coat,
good word.
spinal.
Yeah, mod.
Not modern, but mod.
Absolutely.
Mod.
Mercy beat.
If we say that any more times, it's not going to make any sense.
Mod.
So this was your second time viewing it, and it was my first.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater when it first came out. I've been looking forward to it for a while, and I thought the trailer was so intriguing because they did a good job of not really showing you too much. And I just loved it. I thought it was a fantastic film in the theater. I loved it just as much watching it the second time. I was transported away by the soundtrack. He found all these great kind of, not exactly obscure, but certainly not overplayed 60s songs that are really well used in the film.
Petula Clark's Downtown, probably most notably, but there were some other iconic needle drops.
Anya Taylor-Joy doing the a cappella version of Downtown, which I thought was very well done.
Well, so let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
This is based on a young girl who's maybe 18, and she's going away to a fashion design school from her smaller hometown, and she's going to London to prepare for this new career, burgeoning career. And she has an affinity for all things 1960s, right? She loves Audrey Hepburn. You can see that at the beginning in her room. And so she loves the style and the music and the movies.
She carries a case of vinyl records with her from the time and listens to them. I was actually unsure when I first started watching the film what time period it takes place in, because like so much of what she does is retro, but then you see she has like an iPhone and it's okay. It's modern. But she is so drawn to that time period that there's a lot of retro aspects to her personality.
Right, and there's a scene in the library where she actually uses microfilm or microfiche. But other than the couple of times that you see a smartphone used kind of in the periphery, this could have taken place in the 90s or later than that.
Yeah,
but it's not super locked down in present day. It's certainly locked down in the past. And we had a Doctor Who cameo.
Yeah, by Matt Smith.
Yeah. And he was great in this role. I would never have handpicked him for the role that he's in. And it's very spoilery to tell you anything about his role, but he nailed it.
Yeah, he was great. I thought all the cast was really good in this. I was very pleased with everybody.
Yeah, I loved Anya Taylor-Joy, and then the landlord or landlady of the flat that the main character eventually rents was the woman that plays the grandma Tyrell in Game of Thrones.
Yep, Diana Rigg. Who sadly passed away right after the filming of this. So
I love her.
It was dedicated to her memory.
I love her. I love House Tyrell. So anytime that she was on, she has that on-screen gravitas that really pulls you in. And you wouldn't think that seemingly an ancillary character like this would be so important, but she really is, in a weird way, the heart of the film.
Yeah. I think Edgar Wright is such an inventive director and does so many interesting things. And he's like, his trademarks are like these kind of rapid fire action sequences with these tight zoom ins and these big, like really well choreographed cuts.
Big needle drops.
It's sort of a little toned down in this one from what he usually does, but there's some kind of outstanding effects sequences. And there's one sequence in particular where you have two characters changing place that's all basically done in camera without a lot of digital effects to it. And it's just, the choreography is so spot on and so stunning. I really enjoy watching like the way he comes up with how to block out a scene and how to do those effects. I think he's great at that.
So like you said earlier, there is certainly less comedy in this, but there's more horror. So I think it's a warranted trade-off. And I felt like he rose to the occasion, that was in his ability to reach for that.
Yes.
Okay, what did you think about the runtime?
I think the runtime was about right. It's like, what, an hour 45? So like a little less than 2 hours? somewhere in there. I didn't think it was too long.
It goes by fast.
A lot of critics I saw are kind of complaining about the ending, and they're saying that the first half is great and the second half falls apart. I don't really agree with that.
I don't either.
I think the first half is better because you don't really know what's going on yet, and you're kind of being sucked into the world. And so I enjoy that more, but I was perfectly happy with the ending and the denouement and everything. I thought it was very good.
Okay, so something that people say in reviews, and they want to sound like all pithy and poignant. They're
Is
like,
it the word denouement?
No.
Okay.
They want to say something like, but really, the house was the sixth character. Or London was also a character.
London was a character in the film. Yeah,
but
so
honestly, the house that she lived in, she rented a room or a bedstay. But honestly, that house really was a character of the film.
Yeah,
it's so important as a set piece, and you'll see when you watch it pretty quickly.
And the way they handled the lighting and everything in that room, I think, was really good.
Well, and it's not just thrown together the decoration of the interior of the house, the interiority of the house, but it's very intentional. It's very deliberate in a way where each part of the house tells you a story about the occupants or former occupants of that room, including the bathrooms.
There's a French bistro right outside the room the room that she rents.
Let's talk about that.
Well, and what I was going to say about the lighting is that there's this continual flashing strobing red, white, and blue lights.
White, blue.
That happen at night, and so the room is
blue.
continually lit up in these different bright primary colors. That really kind of gives it a dreamlike feeling that contributes to the surreality of it all.
And red, white, and blue for the French flag, and a bunch of other flags, but it's a French bistro. But red, it's like blood, and then white, like death or ghosts, and then blue, like the Fields of Elysium or something, and asphodel. So it's like boom, boom, boom. And I was thinking, I could totally live with it blinking those colors. And then I was, after like the sixth time it ran through, I was like ready to like leave the room.
Well, it made me think of when I was a teenager, I went through a phase where I changed all the light bulbs in my bedroom to red lights because I thought that would be cool.
It's a bordello.
And it's, it gets old real fast.
Yeah, it does.
So.
Just trying to read or something, but she doesn't seem to be bothered by that, but it's very striking what they do with that, because it completely either washes her out or it fills her with this red filter or vice versa.
Yep.
So you saw this film and you recommended it to us, and we watched it together with your family.
Yeah.
And with my husband. And so that was really neat because it was kind of cinematic, because we were all sat here paying attention like we were in a movie theater, but it wasn't in a movie theater.
That's correct.
So which viewing did you enjoy more?
I liked the movie theater viewing more. I was just able to get sucked into it on the big screen with the big sound. And there's one scene where the first time she kind of interacts with 60s London, and she walks out this doorway, and there's a giant poster for Sean Connery in Thunderball, and there's the music, 60s music playing. And I found that moment in the cinema just blew me away. It was so beautiful, and so it transported you to that time period and that place. And I'm an Anglophile as it is, so I love London. London's one of my favorite cities, and I was just I wonder how this movie hits for someone who's a native English person who lives in London, because it doesn't seem so exotic. But for me,
sure.
Seeing London, I'm it's just an amazing city, and it's so bright and exciting, and I just love that.
So I don't know if anybody watches this that's not our very close friends or family, but if you are and you happen to be English, pop something in the comments and tell us how you related to this film as an English or a British person.
Because obviously the director is, so he's got a different viewpoint on it than we do.
It has an English sensibility, but not, overly so.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I loved it. It was one of my favorite films of the year. I really recommend it. If you haven't seen it yet, go out and see it. And if you have the opportunity, see it in the theater, because it'll hit harder.
Okay, what I want people to know though is, yes, it does have horror scenes, horror set pieces, horror tableaus in it. It is not a normal genre horror film. So if that's putting you off and you don't want to see it because you think it's like a Blumhouse film, or something like that,
it's actually a good film, so it's not a Blumhouse film.
Sad horn. Please go and see it anyway. You can just edit all of that out.
That's all staying in.
Give it a shot. Give it a shot, because it's not 2 hours of horror at all.
No.
And when there is horror coming, it's if that stuff is something that bothers you, you'll be able to.
It's not too extreme, and I think it's paced well. It takes a while to get into anything really horrific happening, and then it drips out slowly as it does.
And if you've ever had a bucket list item to see a movie with the name Jocasta in it, then you can check that off your bucket list.
That's right.
Okay, well, thank you for having us watch that. That was very special.
I'm glad we got to do it.
Okay,
Maybe we can do another film, Bouillabaisse, in the future.
I hope
Some other
so.
film that we've both seen.
That would be amazing.
All right, let's do it. High
Okay.
five. Keep it real.
Keep it very real.